Welcome to The Printer's Edge with LaManna, a podcast about how to sell, buy, or build a printing business. Now here are your hosts, LaManna and Ken Okel.
Welcome to the Printer's Edge podcast presented by the LaManna Alliance. Hi, I'm Ken Okel. We've got a special behind-the-scenes episode for you this time. We take you into the world of an assessment. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like a blind date. We want to let you know that you can subscribe to this podcast through iTunes. That way, you'll never miss an episode, and you can catch up on those episodes that have already been released. Also, we are putting these episodes up on YouTube because we know some of you may be at a desktop all day. You might prefer to listen to a podcast through YouTube rather than through an audio service like iTunes. So another option for you there. For this episode, we wanted to give you a special behind-the-scenes perspective of an assessment of a printing business. You're going to join us as we go on this journey. It's in 3 parts. Part 1 and Part 2, they take place in a car. We're heading up to the facility in Part 1. Part 2 is shortly after we leave the facility the following day. Part 3 takes place a few weeks later, and you'll find out what happened. Join us for Part 1 right here. It's early in the morning. Rock and I are in the car. We're heading out to the facility. So right now, Rock and I, we are on the road. We're in a car. We're driving along. And Rock, let me ask you, what exactly are we going to do?
Today we're going to spend a couple days at a first-time client considering a sale. Having some difficulties, wants to have an understanding of the value of his company, the value of his equipment, and the potential over the next 24 months. So we're on our way up, take an assessment, talk to the people, look over the opportunities. And the first step basically is the financial quantitative assessment. And then tomorrow we'll start talking about the qualitative. And then we'll go back and work on the recommendations, what the recommendations will be. So this is very typical of our process. It's exciting. We get to meet the people one-on-one. We get to see the operations, see the financial aspect of it, get the facts. And we see how people have been running their business over the last 5 years or so. So we're pretty excited about this process.
And really being able to see the facility and talk to the people, it makes a difference. You can't just do it over the phone.
No, not at all. This is why there's very few people that do what I do. And having the industry background, knowing the jargon, understanding and determining what the owner wants to do or what they're feeling. So basically it's finding out where the pain is and more or less re-engineering what has happened and possibly looking at reinvesting or exiting.
That was Part 1. Now join us the following day for Part 2. Welcome back, everybody. It's Ken and Rock LaManna. We are on the road now. We are going southbound on Interstate 95. So we've had an interesting time doing this assessment, going to a business, finding out a little bit more about them. So let me see, Rock, what do you want to say about what we've experienced?
Wow. I've never experienced at this level the drama that I experienced. And number one is an absentee owner that had high expectations over 3 to 4 years, that had a tremendous amount of expectations from hired talent that oversold its skill set. However, the big issue, no strategy whatsoever. So just the fact of having no strategy and investing $2 million into an operation that had no return on investment in the future was disheartening. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I've seen it. And now the change is what do we do in a transition? So this might be a little lengthy, but there's a reason why I work on quantitative information, which, by the way, was unreliable and unavailable, which is a problem. Number two is the quantitative information, qualitative information, which is how the business is run and how they're running it. And then now I'm a little bit at the point where now I need to qualify if this is a project we would like to take on. So it's very interesting, but I will come up with some options.
And I think that's the key is looking through what works for you and what can work for the client.
Wow. And the biggest issue here is what people don't understand is your timeline. How much time do you really have to implement and execute, and the available cash? Because you have to, whatever, let's call it workout situation, transition, everything's an investment. None of this is free. And not only financially, it's emotional. People are involved. Families are involved. Livelihoods are involved. And that's, you take that whole picture into consideration, and it's very emotional. It's very emotional. You just can't go to the numbers, because overall, it's all about people. And in this case, this is very interesting to look at, because the client definitely wants to exit because it's a non-core technology or core business that they want to continue on investing in. However, we have to be considerate for the next 90 days, because that's what this exit plan is scheduled for, 90 days. There's a drop dead date, and that's very hard on people, because you have to communicate to the people to do the right thing.
Now, we're back in the studio. We're not in a car. We could have jumped in a car for this part, I guess, Rock, but it works better in the studio. It's been a few weeks, and I wanted to follow up with you about this whole deal, this whole situation, to find out what finally happened.
Oh, boy. Very interesting situation. You know, my father always would say to me, nothing surprises me, Rock. Well, guess what? I could say the same thing, but not today.
Okay.
This situation surprised me.
Really?
I did not expect a company to be this far out of, how should I pleasantly mention this? They were just not aligned. I'm talking about the people, the executives, the expectation of the passive investors. This company was so far out of whack that I had to put the truth down. As I mentioned before, during our assessment process, it's about the quantitative and qualitative information. And then we basically develop a roadmap of recommendations for these companies, for our clients. And this client, the original intent was to posture the company for sale. Well, by the time we finished, after 48 hours of assessment and evaluation, the recommendation was to liquidate the operation. That was my recommendation. The debate was between his partner, minority partner, the hired gun to turn the company around, which was unsuccessful, and also a only print broker that controlled the sales of close to $2.5 million that was bleeding the company. So overall, my recommendation was to liquidate.
Okay.
And the liquidation had 4 parts to it. It's either he could do it himself, work with his employees to liquidate, share this information to, over 90 days, position the company where the employees are situated, the customers are situated, the suppliers are situated, and of course, the biggest issue was going to be the loss of investment. The loss of investment was close to $2 million. I really didn't want to be part of that, and I really felt for the overall operation. And the people did not have the skill set to basically liquidate the operation. So that was the big item here was, okay, client, here's my recommendations. The first three, I do not want to be part of. The LaManna Alliance would not be part of. So you're on your own. However, if you choose LaManna Alliance to do this within 90 days, which I had no problem outsourcing these relationships to, and along with the coordination of the project management that LaManna would do, such as myself, we would be able to do it within the timeline. Bottom line here is we focus on the truth. We got the truth. The next item was the trust in the process. And of course, the timeline, because the timeline was about money. We anticipated there'd be another at least $300,000 loss in those 3 months. So pick your poison. What do you decide to do? And the client decided to do it themselves during this exit. With that, we move on to the next project. But believe me, it was very interesting working with someone that had an expectation of selling an ongoing concern and understanding that that wasn't viable.
We hope you've enjoyed this behind-the-scenes look, kind of a unique thing we thought we'd try this month. We didn't know where it was going to go, and I think no matter how it turned out, you were going to learn some more about this whole process. Rock, if someone would like to find out more about you and what you do in the marketplace, what would you like them to do?
There's a few ways. Number one, go online, rocklamanna.com. Subscribe to my newsletter. Link in with me. Invite myself to you. You could find us on our podcast,
The Printer's Edge.
The Printer's Edge.
Subscribe on iTunes.
Subscribe. LNNW is another. Subscribe to the magazine. I write the bottom line for every issue. Also the posts. I mean, I'm everywhere. TLMI, SGIA, the PIA, and so on. So I'm out in the marketplace, and that's basically where you can find me.
And if you'd like to learn more about me, you can go to my website, which is like my name, Ken Okel, Kenokel. I'm a professional speaker who's an expert in productivity, helping make you more efficient, effective, and profitable.
You can also follow me on Twitter.
Yes.
At Rock LaManna.
Always good to know. So for now, I guess we will sign off by saying,
See you in the marketplace.
This is the Prince's Edge with Rock LaManna. Thanks for listening.